Welcome to Dark Hour Tales, where every page hides a secret, and every shadow has a voice. Sit by the fire and listen closely. This story might just keep you up at night.
They say a demon lives in the vending machine in the east wing of my school. Not like a ghost. Not like one of those Bloody Mary mirror tricks that dares you to chant her name 3 times in the dark. This is different. It doesn't want attention. It doesn't scream or rattle chains or float through halls dripping in death. It waits. It listens. And sometimes, when it's hungry enough, it trades. I first heard about it in 8th grade, sitting cross-legged on the gym floor during one of those mandatory overnight lock-in events that everyone pretended to hate but secretly loved. A senior named Bryce told a story like it was something he'd seen with his own eyes, which I later learned was how every retelling went. "You have to go alone," he said, flashlight under his chin, surrounded by nodding heads and half-finished bags of chips. "You wait until it's exactly 3:03 a.m., not 3:02, not 3:04. It has to be storming outside. The lights need to flicker. And when you put your money in, you can't choose what you want. The machine chooses you." That's how it always starts. A weird detail here. A twist there. But the same bones every time. The vending machine tucked next to the east stairwell, just beyond the auditorium. No brand name on it. Just blank silver sides, a black panel of buttons, and a slot that sometimes sounds like breathing if you stand too close. You can't find it in the maintenance records. No one remembers when it was installed. Some say it's been there forever. I used to laugh at all of it. Chalked it up to high school drama and bored teenagers trying to scare each other. But even then, even when I was trying to act unimpressed, I remember staring at that machine every time I passed it. It made me uncomfortable. Not scared, just unsettled. Like it was watching me. Like it knew who I was. That unease started to grow once I hit 10th grade and started staying late more often. Extra labs, drama club rehearsals, the occasional detention. I'd pass that corner after dark, when the halls were empty and the overhead lights buzzed with that harsh, flickering glow. And every time, that vending machine would be humming. Not quietly, like normal ones. Louder, thicker, like it was alive. Worse still, sometimes I thought I heard the hum change when I walked by. Like it recognized me. I didn't talk about it. No one did. But we all knew. You could feel it in the way people crossed the hallway faster. How teachers avoided assigning lockers anywhere near it. How janitors muttered under their breath and refused to clean that part of the floor unless it was daytime. Everyone felt the story, even if they didn't believe it. I remember one afternoon in October, just as the leaves started to rot into mulch along the fence line. I stood in front of the machine waiting for my bus. I didn't even mean to stop. My feet did it without thinking. I stood there, staring at the panel, trying to figure out what was off about it. It wasn't broken. It wasn't particularly old. But something about the symmetry of the buttons was wrong. Not randomly wrong. Purposely wrong. Like someone had laid them out to resemble something, some kind of pattern, but you had to squint to see it. Then it made a noise. Not the motor. Not the whir of dropping snacks. Something else. Click, click. Like a finger tapping glass from the other side. I stepped back so fast I nearly tripped. But the hall was empty. Just me, the flickering lights, and the sound of my own breathing. That was the first time I felt it for real. That prickling. Like my skin knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. After that, I stopped using it completely. Wouldn't even look at it when I passed by. And when friends brought it up, jokingly, always half laughing, I'd shut it down. Not because I was scared. That's what I told myself. I just didn't like feeding the myth. But deep down, I knew I was avoiding something. Something that had been watching. Waiting, for me. It was a Friday night in late October when everything tipped over. The air was damp with that cold, wet smell, like someone had buried leaves under concrete. There was a lock-in at the school for upperclassmen prepping for finals. Not mandatory, just a get serious night, with study groups, pizza, coffee, and guilt-tripping teachers checking in every hour. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't stay home either. Too quiet there. Too many mirrors in my room. Too many hours to think. So I signed up and dragged my bag into the fluorescent hell of the library around 7 p.m., pretending I had every intention of actually studying. That's where I saw Jamie again. We'd been friends since 7th grade, close enough to share secrets, but not close enough to call each other when things fell apart. I think we both liked it that way. Safe distance. No pressure. Jamie was the kind of person who always seemed like they had one foot out of every room, like they didn't quite belong anywhere and didn't mind. He dropped into the chair beside me sometime around 10, grinning like they'd just solved a riddle I hadn't heard yet. "You hear the storm's supposed to hit around midnight?" he asked, tapping his pen against the table. "Could be a good night to settle a bet." I didn't say anything. Jamie's grin widened. "Come on. You know what I'm talking about." I did. Of course I knew. I tried to shake it off. "You still on that vending machine bullshit?" Jamie leaned in. "Don't pretend like you haven't thought about it. Everyone has." I closed my book, more for something to do than anything else. My stomach had started twisting. Not fear, exactly. Something heavier. Like I was being pulled somewhere I didn't want to admit existed. "You really believe that story?" I asked. Jamie shrugged. "I believe something's up. I mean, why not? You felt it, right? That corner. It's wrong. Like the air is thicker. Like the lights are dimmer, even when they're on full blast. I say we test it." I laughed, too hard and too fast. "We." He raised an eyebrow. "Yes, we. But I'll watch. I'll time it. I'll make sure you don't chicken out." I told him no. Repeated it 4 times. He didn't argue. Just nodded, like he knew I'd change my mind. That was worse somehow. The rest of the night dragged. People drifted in and out of the library. Teachers brought in snacks and coffee and talked too loud. My notes blurred. My thoughts kept looping back to the hallway near the east stairwell, to the humming, to that click I'd heard weeks ago. I started counting the hours to 3 a.m. before I even realized I was doing it. The storm came in slower than expected, soft at first. Barely their thunder rolling low and lazy across the sky like something big was stretching. By midnight, the rain was steady. By 1, it was slamming the windows hard enough to drown out conversation. A few people had already gone home. Others were curled up in corners pretending to study while fighting sleep. Jamie was still awake, still grinning. I kept watching the clock. By 2:45, the halls were quiet. Not silent, exactly, but low. Like the building was holding its breath. I don't remember deciding to go. I just remember standing up, my legs moving without me. Jamie fell into step beside me, whispering jokes I didn't hear. My pulse was in my ears. My palms were wet. Every step toward that stairwell felt wrong. The power flickered once as we passed the auditorium. Jamie stopped talking. I turned to them at the base of the stairs. "You're not coming." He shook his head. "You have to do it alone. That's the rule." That word, rule, hung in the air like smoke. I looked at the clock on my phone. 2:59 a.m. The hallway ahead was darker than it should have been. The overhead lights weren't off, but they might as well have been. The vending machine was the only thing lit, its buttons glowing soft red and orange, like dying coals in a furnace. Jamie stayed behind. I walked the rest of the way alone. Each footstep echoed too loud. The machine's hum was louder now, low, guttural, vibrating through the soles of my shoes. I stood in front of it and felt my breath catch. 3:01. I pulled out a crumpled dollar. My hand shook. 3:02. The lights overhead flickered again. Thunder cracked, loud and sharp, like the sky had just torn in two. 3:03. I fed the machine the dollar. Nothing happened at first. No whir, no mechanical cough. Just the glow of the buttons, now brighter than before. I reached out and pressed B7. My old favorite, a candy bar I hadn't eaten in years. The machine clicked. Then it groaned. I didn't know machines could groan. Something heavy thudded behind the glass. The coil turned. The candy bar dropped. And something else dropped with it. Small, square, wrapped in black paper. I stepped closer. My hand hovered near the tray. The machine's screen flickered. For a split second, maybe less, I saw something that wasn't numbers. It looked like a face. Then the lights came back. The hallway brightened. The hum stopped. The candy bar was sitting there, untouched. But the black paper package was gone. And I never saw Jamie again. I don't remember walking back to the library. I don't remember speaking. I don't remember seeing anyone, not even the teachers who were supposed to be doing rounds. I just remember blinking and suddenly sitting at the study table again, staring at my notes, the air thick and cold. my fingers numb and trembling like I'd held them in ice water too long. My phone said 3:28 a.m., 30 minutes gone. Jamie wasn't in his seat. I waited, watched the door, listened for their laugh. Nothing. No one said they saw them leave, but by morning, their stuff was gone. The teachers didn't mention them during roll call. Like Jamie had never signed in. Like they hadn't been there at all. No one else seemed to remember. But I did. That moment in the hallway. The hum. The coil turning. The shape of the thing beside the candy bar. The flicker of a face on the machine's screen. Brief and wrong. Not human, not animal, not anything with a name I knew. Something that looked back at me. I couldn't explain it, even to myself. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that soft glow, orange, red, pulsing like it had a heartbeat. I felt the machine's breath against my skin. And I kept hearing a whisper I hadn't noticed before. Faint, crooked, mechanical. The next morning, I checked my pocket. The candy bar was there. Same brand, same wrapper. Nothing weird. But I hadn't taken it. I know that for a fact. I never reached into that tray. I couldn't have. So how did it end up in my coat? I threw it out. It came back the next day. Different pocket. Still unopened. Still ice cold. I buried it under a stack of books in my locker and stopped talking to people. My appetite vanished. My eyes felt dry all the time, like I was forgetting to blink. I couldn't concentrate. Couldn't shake the feeling that something was walking behind me just out of sight. I stopped sleeping. Or maybe I just forgot how. The worst part. No one else seemed to notice Jamie was gone. Not their teachers. Not their so-called friends. No missing posters. No announcements. Not even a vague, "Has anyone seen Jamie?" Nobody asked. Nobody cared. Like the world had corrected itself without them. Except for me. I couldn't let it go. I started checking the hallway after school. Watching the vending machine. Never too close. Just enough to see if something shifted. It never moved, never blinked, never glowed the way it had that night. But the hum came back. Low. Constant. Just on the edge of hearing. I could feel it in my teeth. One afternoon I stood across from it, pretending to look at my phone, and someone walked past me. A freshman, I think. They dropped a coin into the machine without even looking up. It spat their snack out before their finger left the button. Weird. But for a split second, I saw something else in the reflection on the machine's glass. It was Jamie, standing inside, mouth open, eyes wide, like he were screaming, but no sound came out. Then, it was gone. Just my face again, pale and sweating, mouth pressed tight. I start running, but I came back. I kept coming back. Something in me had already cracked open, and the question poured through like cold water. What did I give it? What did it take? A week later, I found something else in my locker, folded into the crease of a spiral notebook I hadn't used in months. A note, typed, all caps. Feed it again. No name, no context, no joke. I stared at it for a long time. The words didn't feel like a suggestion. They felt like a sentence. And I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit before. The vending machine hadn't just taken Jamie. It had given me something in return. Something I didn't ask for. Something I couldn't name. And now it was hungry again. After the note, everything got louder. The hum wasn't just in my ears anymore. It was in the walls, the floors, the backs of my eyes. I'd be sitting in class, half listening, half praying for the day to end, and suddenly realize the lights were buzzing in rhythm with the vending machine's pulse. That same slow, thick throb. Like a living thing just beneath the surface, breathing through the wiring. I stopped sleeping altogether. And the dreams didn't wait for me to close my eyes. I'd blink too long in the hallway and see it. The machine, glowing, humming, staring. I'd look into windows and catch flashes of a face. Jamie's sometimes, but not always. Sometimes it was mine. Twisted. Empty. Eyes rolled up. Mouth filled with wires. One time, in the reflection of the glass trophy case outside the gym, I saw myself inside the vending machine. Pressed against the glass like meat in a freezer. Frost curling along my skin. Lips blue. Fingers broken. Smiling. The worst part was no one noticed. Not just about Jamie, about me. My grades slipped. I stopped talking. I stopped eating. I looked like hell and no one said a word. I started to think maybe I was fading out too, bit by bit. But the machine never forgot me. The second note came during chemistry. A piece of black paper folded into my textbook, right between the molecular diagrams. I hadn't opened the book in weeks. UO. That was it. All caps. Same font. Like someone was keeping track. Like there were rules to this game, and I'd broken one without knowing. I started digging. First online. Urban legends. Haunted machines. Cursed objects. School disappearances. Nothing that matched. Nothing close enough to give me comfort. Then I turned to the school itself. Old yearbooks. Maintenance logs. Staff directories. Most of it was boring. But there were gaps. Years with no documentation. Events nobody remembered. There was one year, almost a decade ago, where half the graduating class didn't show up for senior photos. Just a line of blank spaces where faces should have been. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe the machine had been feeding longer than anyone realized. Then I found the blueprints. They were buried in a dusty filing cabinet behind the stage in the auditorium, probably untouched since the building opened. Most of it was what you'd expect. Wiring, piping, load-bearing walls. But the vending machine wasn't on any of them. Not once. No power draw. No installation record. No vendor contract. Just a blank wall where it now stood. Like it had always been there. Like it had grown there. I remember staring at the blueprint and feeling something shift inside me. Like I was standing in a room with no walls. Like nothing was real and everything was watching. That night, the dreams got worse. I was back in the hallway. The storm was louder this time, wind screaming like sirens. I stood in front of the machine, and the glass was fogged from the inside. Something was pressed against it. Something big. Breathing. I stepped closer, and the glass cleared. It was Jamie, or whatever was left of him. He could not speak. His mouth was stitched shut with metal wire. His eyes flicked toward the keypad, and then to me. Choose. He said. I woke up with blood on my palm. A deep clean cut across the lifeline. Like something had sliced me open with surgical precision. And in my bed, sitting dead center on my pillow, was the candy bar I'd thrown away. I screamed. But nobody heard. The next morning, the principal announced that another student, Tess Riley, was missing. Vanished after drama rehearsal. Her backpack was found in the hallway, near the vending machine. I didn't ask anyone about her. Didn't need to. I already knew. She'd fed it wrong. Or maybe not enough. I was next. I could feel it. Not out of punishment, but because I was part of it now. Whatever the machine was, I had opened the door. And something had stepped through. The next time I went near the machine, I wasn't even fully conscious of it. My body just moved, like a string had been pulled somewhere deep under the skin. I was supposed to be in gym, but I found myself walking that hallway again. The East Wing, the cold part of the school that never seemed to heat up no matter how hard the radiators hissed. I stopped 6 feet from the machine. It wasn't humming this time. It was silent, waiting. The screen was blank, the buttons unlit. But I felt something underneath the surface, like static on my skin, like pressure building behind my eyes. There was a single candy bar sitting in the tray, not the kind they sell anymore. A discontinued brand I hadn't seen since middle school. Its wrapper was faded, like it had been sitting there a long, long time. I turned and walked away. That was the only time it let me. I tried to ignore it again, tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that the stress was making me see patterns where there weren't any. But then I found something worse than a note. It was a picture, a Polaroid, lying flat in the middle of my desk at home. No envelope, no handwriting, just the photo. It showed me, standing in front of the vending machine, my eyes wide, my mouth slightly open. The hallway around me was dark and wet looking, like it had been soaked in oil. But I hadn't been there when that photo was taken. Not like that. And in the photo, barely visible in the glass behind me, there was a shape. Tall, twisted, like someone had melted a mannequin and left it there to rot. Its fingers were pressed to the inside of the glass. Reaching. I flipped the photo over. One word, written in black marker. Soon. That was when I stopped pretending this wasn't real. I started writing things down. Logging every time I heard the hum, every time the lights flickered, Every time someone disappeared from school and no one else seemed to care. I had 13 entries in 3 weeks. Names, times, patterns. It always happened during storms. Always near 3:03 a.m. Always after someone interacted with the vending machine. But what chilled me most, what finally snapped something in me, was what I noticed on the oldest of the school maps, tucked into a yearbook from 1976. Back then, the East Wing didn't exist. There was no hallway, no stairwell, no vending machine. Just an empty courtyard the school later paved over. Which meant that machine hadn't been installed. It had arrived. Or worse, it had been built around. And I started thinking, what if it wasn't just feeding on people? What if it was making trades? What if every student it took, it left something behind in return? And what if I was one of them? That thought wouldn't leave me. It burrowed under everything. I started watching myself closely. My reflections didn't always move right. My voice sounded different when I wasn't thinking about it. Slightly deeper, slightly off pitch. My fingerprints stopped working on my phone. I tried to tell someone once. A counselor. She smiled too much, blinked too slowly. When I started explaining, she tilted her head and said, "Did you feed it?" I walked out and never went back. No one followed up. No one ever does. That night, I found a third note taped to the mirror in the school bathroom. Not folded, not hidden, just staring back at me in bold, block letters. You remembered. It remembers you. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my closet with the light on, holding the candy bar like a loaded gun. And at 3:03, every vending machine in the school turned on at once. I wasn't even there. I heard it. I felt it. The hum rattled the windows. And somewhere, something whispered through the walls. Come back. Finish the transaction. The storm rolled in like it had been waiting for me. It wasn't loud at first, just that soft, constant roar, like something big was breathing through the clouds. I watched the sky from my bedroom window, the hour crawling toward 3:03 a.m., and in the pit of my stomach, something old and cold began to stir. It wasn't fear anymore. Not exactly. It was understanding. Recognition. The vending machine hadn't chosen me. It had claimed me. I didn't remember walking out of the house, or unlocking the bandroom door, or stepping into the dark of the school. But I remember the silence. That heavy, unnatural hush that swallowed the building from the inside out. It felt like I was the last living thing in a place that had already died. The east hallway was colder than I'd ever felt it. The air moved weird, like it wasn't air at all but something thicker, heavier, brushing along my skin. The overhead lights didn't flicker, they were just off. The only light came from the vending machine, standing like a monolith at the end of the hall, humming low and steady. I walked toward it. My legs didn't shake this time. In my pocket was the object I hadn't planned to bring. A bracelet I didn't remember finding, one I'd never seen before. Silver chain. Tiny letters on the charm. I turned them over in my fingers. My name. I didn't hesitate. I reached the machine. It lit up brighter as I approached, like it had been holding its breath too. The keypad glowed a warm orange. The screen blinked once. Blinked twice. And then displayed a message. Place item. I dropped the bracelet into the tray. It sank in without a sound. Then the machine groaned. Not like gears or metal, like something living shifting under its own weight. The screen went black. And then everything stopped. No lights. No hum. No presence. The hallway was empty. The world felt lighter. For the first time in months, I felt normal. I left without looking back. Walked out into the storm and let the rain soak through my shirt. It didn't matter. I was free. Whatever the machine was, whatever it wanted, it had taken its payment. And I had survived. The next morning, everything was back to normal. Students buzzed in the halls like nothing had ever happened. Jamie was in the cafeteria, laughing, like nothing happened. Tess passed me by in the stairwell with a casual wave. Teachers talked about tests and grades. No one mentioned disappearances. No one whispered about curses. The vending machine looked like any other again. Dark, quiet, half-stocked with overpriced snacks. For a while, I let myself believe it was over. I started sleeping again. I started eating. I even laughed once. But then the small things started changing. Little details that no one else noticed. My reflection stopped blinking when I did. My voice, recorded on my phone, played back half a second late. My dog wouldn't come near me anymore. Just stood at the edge of the room, growling low in her throat with her ears flat, like she smelled something wrong under my skin. One night I cut my hand opening a can. The blood was thick. Too thick. Almost black. It smelled like copper and burning plastic. I wiped it away, but more came. Slower, denser, just like syrup. That same night, I woke up with a small coin in my hand. Heavy, cold, no markings, no edge, just a perfect circle of metal. I threw it out, but it was back on my pillow the next morning. I tried not to sleep after that, but somehow I started dreaming anyway. Always the same dream. I'm in the hallway. The lights are off. The vending machine is open, and I'm inside it, pressed to the glass, screaming silently, watching someone else walk past in my skin. I know what happened now. I fed the machine, but it fed me back, and whatever walked away from that hallway might not have been me at all.
So, what would you have chosen? Walk away, or feed it? Stories like these don't end. They just wait. Like that hum behind the vending glass. Like the things that watch us when we think we're alone. If this one followed you home, you might want to keep the lights on tonight. I'll drop horror like this a few times a week. If you like getting scared, subscribe. I'll be here, waiting.